The Newsline.
Hello and welcome back to Newsline, brought to you by People's TV. In this news commentary, we draw attention to the often overlooked atrocities committed by radical Islamist groups against Buddhists and Hindus in Chittagong, Bangladesh. In response, the Buddhist community of Sri Lanka organized a peaceful protest march, which included participation from Buddhist clergy not only from Sri Lanka but also from Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, and Cambodia. The march was coordinated by the National Patriotic Movement, and at its conclusion, a letter was delivered to the High Commission of the Maldives, demanding an end to the persecution of Buddhists and Hindus in Bangladesh. Although these events demonstrate unity and solidarity with the persecuted communities, we must question their actual impact. Take, for example, the letter handed over during the protest. It was received by a representative of the High Commissioner, rather than the High Commissioner themselves. There is no certainty that the letter ever reached the appropriate authority. Even if it does, there is no guarantee that it will prompt any action, or that it won't simply gather dust in a folder. I speak from experience, having handed over such letters to authorities on countless occasions. We cannot expect to resolve complex issues through a protest march that culminates in the delivery of a letter alone. While these events may raise public awareness of the existing problems, there is no guarantee that they will lead to any meaningful resolution. Which is why we need to be more practical in the way we think and act. We can voice our concerns about persecuted communities. However, someone said prevention is better than the cure. Likewise, we should take measures to prevent such conditions develop in our own nation. Life in Chittagong has been threatened by the radical Islamists ever since it gained independence in 1971. Consequently, the Buddhist population in the area has hit a record low. As low as 1.6%, Buddhists and Hindus have fled to neighboring India and Myanmar. This indicates that Islam remains a religion of peace only until they remain a minority. As soon as they gain influence within a society, many tend to turn radical, demanding the implementation of Sharia law, establishing madrasa schools, and at times resorting to violence. This has become a troubling reality in parts of the United States and Europe. We can see that President Trump has taken concrete measures to counter this situation in the United States. He implemented policies aimed at curbing the spread of radical Islamic ideology on American soil. Several European nations have since begun following similar approaches. For instance, in Germany, a Palestinian refugee who had obtained citizenship was found posting jihadist propaganda on social media, glorifying the terrorist organization Hamas and portraying it as a heroic resistance movement. The German government took swift action to revoke the citizenship of the individual in question. Similarly, the United States revoked the citizenship of two immigrants who had justified the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Italy and Denmark have also made progress by banning the burqa in public places. Such measures are necessary in Sri Lanka as well if we are to prevent a situation similar to what has unfolded in Bangladesh. Would also like to draw attention to Zoran Mamdani, a mayoral candidate for New York City. He is a Muslim American of Ugandan descent. Although he is running for the office of mayor, it appears evident that he does not have the true interests of the American people at heart. Mamdani has publicly supported the narrative that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, among other controversial positions. He represents radical Islamism in a subtle and calculated manner. In response to this, Donald Trump announced that any federal funding allocated to New York City would be withdrawn if Mamdani were elected. The Trump administration continues to take firm steps to curb the spread of radical Islamic ideology. Now let us turn our attention back to Sri Lanka. Our concern is not with moderate Muslims but with radical Islamists. No one can accuse us of exaggeration, for we have already experienced the consequences of radical Islam through the Easter Sunday attacks. The same Islamists who shed crocodile tears while accusing Israel of attempting to colonize Sri Lanka through the tourists arriving in Arugam Bay remain silent about Kadankudi and other areas of the island that are under the growing influence of radical Islamist ideology. We cannot allow any group to dismiss these observations as racist or insignificant. What must be examined is whether the government is truly capable of addressing this grave situation. Unfortunately, the government has already demonstrated its incompetence by appointing a devout Muslim to oversee Buddhist affairs, placing him in charge of the very department meant to safeguard Buddhism. We are not advocating for decisions that isolate or target any specific ethnic group on racial grounds. However, we cannot afford to treat radicalism as insignificant. We can continue to speak about Bangladesh and Europe or keep handing over letters to high commissions, yet none of that will change the situation on the ground. Sri Lanka has already endured a 30-year civil war, something we must never allow to happen again. If this report helped you see the situation on the ground clearly, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to People's TV, where truth has no agenda, and facts speak louder than spin.
Subscribe us for more details.